Hello everybody, welcome to Thursday Live with the Matuska Taxidermy Supply Company, and I'm here once again with Brett Wingfield. And if you joined us last week, we've had a lot of winter weather since then, haven't we?
We have had some ugly weather.
This is like not even Thanksgiving, you know, it should be a little cool in the mornings and evenings for you deer hunters and things like that, but man, we've got tracking snow, we've got spotting snow. It's a winter wonderland out there in northwest Iowa, and we have ice and we have snow and freezing temperatures.
We had people go home early.
Yeah.
With ice.
One of our little people, you didn't hear this, one of our little people out there, little Jacob, was driving and lost control and smashed up his car out by a highway. Made it not drivable. So be careful out there. You know, there's we have a lot of people. We got another young child working here from Maryland, and you know, people that aren't from the Midwest sometimes don't drive very well.
Yes.
And you can kind of tell. It's like, you know, places that don't get a lot of snow, kind of this is new for them. But so be careful out there and drive careful, and take this opportunity to get out. And what was it yesterday? You said this is, or day before you said this is the best hunting day of the year.
Yep.
And one of our guys went out and saw one that he should have got.
Yeah, he had a chance.
Anyway, winter's upon us. The hunting season is upon us. We're seeing a lot of exceptional deer harvested on Facebook, and we've taken in some real beauties with the studio here. And so it's kind of fun to see what some of the savvier hunters are able to get.
And some of the diehard fall fishermen are starting to bring some fish in.
Yeah. Big fish, those big walleyes are kind of bulking up for the winter, and you go out there in your waders right now and
freeze your waders off.
Waders and long underwear, and you got probably a better chance of getting a big walleye than any time. So take this opportunity. This is what most of us live for, is this short little window of game getting, I guess you'd say, trophy getting. If you joined us last week, we did a little touch on reproduction fish, and this is a reproduction salmon that we showed you last week. We made a mold for,
Wish we could claim that one.
We started out small, and you will work up to this. But a lot of people question, why would you do a reproduction when you can do a skin mount? This isn't the real fish. This isn't the person's trophy. Tell them your views on why would you talk a customer into this?
In the case of that fish, this one is a bright Great Lakes fish, and that's not going to skin mount very well, even if we did have the fish. In this case, that fish was released, caught and released. So we were able to find this one from a catalog and get something really close. But in the case of actually having the real fish versus the reproduction, I think you get every bit as much detail, if not more, out of the reproduction. You're casting it, especially a good fresh fish like the little ones that we cast last week and molded last week. Those little ones really will show you, have some great detail that, I don't know, even a really nice carving and some nice finished epoxy work, I still think your reproduction could be.
It would take an exceptional taxidermist, first in fish taxidermy, like you said, carving, to come up with a body shape like this. Look at that nice swimming motion, ready to paint. You know, to get to this point, there's a handful of people that can do it. It's not just every fish taxidermist. So when people say, but it's not my fish, if you made a mold of their fish, you would have an exact replica of that fish. In the case of the salmon, like you said, was released, and we ordered this. This is the Dave Campbell reproduction. And really nice detail. So on the bigger fish that are caught and released, you can go to the catalogs and you can order them. You can, we always like to get a picture from the customer to match the color if possible. We get the length, the dimensions if we can. We like to get a girth, or you can kind of look and see what matches in on the websites or in the catalogs and order something like this. In the case of catfish, like we mentioned last week, we've done a lot of reproduction catfish, you know, big state record catfish, and usually the state will bring in that fish in which we use that fish and make a replica of it. And I think I mentioned the state record channel cat at one time. They wanted 5 of them, one for every hatchery. So we made one mold, and we changed the background and the angle of the fish, head up, head down, and you couldn't even tell it was the same fish, just the way we positioned it. And we were able to give every hatchery a different version of the same fish. So on catfish, just because they're very oily and greasy, and the skin is very difficult to work with. So for sure, catfish and thin skinned fish, catfish bullheads, eopow, things like that, we would opt for reproduction. If you have the fish, with what we're showing you last week and this week, you can make your own. And that's something that's pretty darn intimidating when you start. So don't start on your customer's fish. We have that all the time. I've got this big fish, and my customer brought in, and I want to make a reproduction, and tell me what to do. That's not the way to do it. You know, start on something little. We showed you the beginnings last week of how to make a small panfish. Start small and work your way up. And like I said, I just about went broke making my little perch fishing lures, and that was really a fish reproduction. I took a perch that I'd caught, and I bedded it in a material. I made a 2-piece mold, and then I made fishing lures, which didn't work and broke fishing poles, but they were so fun, I couldn't quit.
I want to see this perch again. I think we can bring it back to life.
My first real endeavor was for my showroom again, and it was, like I said, don't start with your customers, but what's out in Rapid City? Marine World? Marine Life and Marine World, one of those.
Yeah.
And they had a big paddlefish die. And Marty Hansen brought me this giant frozen paddlefish, probably a 50-pound fish. And I was so excited, I made a fiberglass reproduction of it, and it's still in the showroom right now.
It is.
And
That's
it's
great.
collected a few cobwebs and inches of dust, but I was pretty proud of it when I did it, and it could use a little touching up, but it's
Still looks pretty nice.
But anyway, that's a lot of the reasons for reproduction fish. Some fish aren't suited for skin mounts. Some fish were released. In the instance of Lou Winia, who was the founder of Lake Country, used to be called CPR.
That's right.
And it was catch, photograph, and release. CPR fish reproductions. And they were some of the finest fish reproductions.
They were. They
were
really were.
really nice. And I remember going up there to visit them, and Julie was in the freezer with a snorkel parka, and she was painting silicone rubber in the freezer on these big fish that they laid up in their bedding material. And that was fascinating to me. I don't think my wife would go in the freezer with a parka and peel a rubber.
That's funny.
And here's another example. This fish is a Waters by Klaus Bluegill, I believe. And this was a reproduction. And they all come different. When you buy them from the supply company, these fins were separated. I think the head was on and the body was connected. And we like to actually paint the fins before we put them together. Works good, that way you don't get overspray all over the place. And this was just a nice little bluegill that we picked up at a show. And I mean, that makes a great little display for your showrooms.
Yeah.
And they're reasonably inexpensive and teach you how to paint.
Yeah. And you've got a big lake country back there.
Oh, we got a big lake country pike back here, and that's we have a lot of things in the shop that are in the process of being completed. But that's gonna be a really nice fish.
That is a nice fish.
Okay, last week we introduced you to a new product, and that was premium bedding fiber by Mike Grady. And premium bedding fiber, I think we kind of exhausted the conversation how we used to have high fiber.
Yeah.
I think I told people how I think I used asbestos to start with.
Yeah.
But
Explains a
didn't
lot.
bother me. Then high fiber came along, and high fiber was made by the Hills Brothers Company. And I'm not sure, maybe it's in your coffee, maybe.
It might be.
But anyway, high fiber was just, I guess I'd have to say mysteriously discontinued for whatever reason. And for a long time, we had nothing. We've used, in a pinch, we've used silica sand, like they sandblast with, and that will give you a somewhat decent edge. You were talking about the Yale University would bring their big fish up on the beach, and they would bed them in ocean sand. And that's a fascinating book. We should get that out sometime because it's fascinating to read how the professor and his students would go out on a fishing trip. You know, I want to go to that school for sure. And they would catch these, I mean, monster fish, like, I don't know what a big hammerhead shark weighs, but these things look to be hundreds of pounds. And they would lay them in sand and bed them up exactly like we did the little bluegill the other day. And they would trowel them out with their little putty knives, and then they poured plaster.
I cannot imagine.
Plaster over the whole fish. Now, the thing that some of you don't know that maybe haven't done this, plaster molds do pick up exceptional detail. They'll pick up fingerprints. Plaster can't be discounted. Well, you can't negate
I think that worked.
benefits of plaster. It picks up fingerprints. I mean, it's a great molding material. The problem with it is it's very, very heavy. And when we made those big catfish molds, you could pretty easily have 100 pounds in a half of a catfish. Now think of a 500-pound hammerhead shark. Think how much one side of that mold would weigh. So what they would do is they would pour plaster, and it's kind of a pictorial book, and they took conduit and they made a bridge work of conduit for strength, but also so 2 or 3 people could grab onto something and actually lift that, and they could put it in cradles that would hold it. So they really had a system, you know, and this would have been, I'm guessing, in the 50s or so. It's fascinating to see that. But right now we have, by Mike Grady, premium bedding fiber, and it's as good or better than high fiber. We've had great success with it. Use it over and over and over.
Yes.
Don't throw it away. We took all of it that we used the other day when we molded the bluegill and crappie, and just put it in a bucket and let it dry up. Let it completely dry up. When you want to use it again, add a little bit of water. I found it works good with hot water, and break it up. It'll be chunky and you know, not usable, but the next day it will absorb all that water and it'll be nice and trowelable again.
Add a little bactericide if it gets a little fishy.
It will.
It will.
If you do a lot of fish molding or molding of any kind, and you're using this, the fish juices kind of mix with this and make it even better, but the odor is, it'll smell a little bit. So we put a little bactericide in, a little Lysol or a little Quat 64
Expect or something,
Expect. So anyway, this is a great product, and we are very thankful to Mike Grady to have it back.
Yes, we are.
Every time we had to make a mold when we could no longer get high fiber, it was very, very difficult, and we searched for our old remnants of high fiber, and some of the companies came out with substitutes. None of the substitutes worked. They didn't trowel out very good. So thanks, Mike, for bringing this to the industry, and I think we're the exclusive distributors of this, and it's great, and we're proud to have that because it's nice stuff. So show them what we did last week.
So last week, well, we did a lot of things, but we molded the crappie, we molded the bluegill, and we did one half or both halves? We did one half.
I think we did a half.
We did a half for you, and I think we even maybe put some fiberglass on it. And then we had to flip it over, and then we had to do the other half. And that was pretty simple. That was one of the nice things about the bedding fiber is it comes off the backside of the fish. But we flipped him over, cleaned off the backside. We popped out our mold keys, and so it left the cavity. And then we poured the second half of it the same way we did the first, thin down Bondo. And a trick that we had done with these that you mentioned was we poured these pretty thin. If you look at them, they're very thin. Our Bondo was thin, and they were reinforced with fiberglass, and the idea being that they don't heat up quite as much. You can't eat them though.
Yeah, it'll cook a fish. And if you've molded as many fish as I have, and you typically, if a little is good, a lot has to be a lot better. So I started out pouring 3 inches of plaster on some of these fish that I used to do. Some of those big catfish, when you get the mold together, you have to literally the next day, you don't want to take it apart too soon, you want that plaster to set, you pour that fish out. It's purified, it's liquid. You're pretty proud of this one.
Yeah.
Caitlin can get a really nice detailed picture or close-up picture. This is a little crappie from our fishing excursion.
Yeah.
Look at the detail on these fins. I don't know if you can see it, but scales. The scales and the fin rays and everything is really, really nicely detailed.
This one came out very nice, and it will make. We have not made a part out of this, but we're going to show them today a little bit about making a part, and I'm excited. I think that one's going to be a fun one, and this one came out really nice too. This is the little bluegill, and you've kind of started the next step of this, just the cooking show idea that we can't get it all done in one.
We don't want to confuse you, but we have jumped ahead a little bit. We'll go back and try to catch you up, but we wanted to show you as much as we can, so parts of this have to be done.
And we did take some really good pictures. As we advanced through this during the course of the week, we took some pictures, and I think Caitlin's got a few of them we might be able to show you during the week, next week, fill in some of the gaps for him.
A mold like this, I would think you could probably get, if you're careful, in excess of 35 to 50 crappies out of that. As you use it over and over and over, auto body putty and Bondo is not a really, really strong material, but this fish will pull out of here over and over and over and over. You're going to lose a little chip here and a little chip here, things that you have to fix as you go, but it's much easier than trying to skin the fish and things like that. It's actually a little bit faster.
You know how long it would take us to catch 50 of them? We'd never get them caught.
It would have taken you and I a long time because we weren't.
We worked hard for that one.
Too good in the fishing department. Now, we will maybe show you, maybe I'll have you show them. A crappie is a great, great fish to mold. And this is a beautiful mold, and this blank is going to be exceptional. I want to see you all paint a crappie from a piece of white plastic. And there's not a lot of people that can do that, and I think maybe Brett will show you how to do that.
I think they should just buy the DVD and we'll let Cole show them.
Now, once we pull the fish off of here, the fish will come out of here very easily. We took it, first I guess I'd go back, we did half of it. So the fish was poured like this, we reinforced it with fiberglass. I like to take a spatula and stick it under there, carefully flip him so the fish doesn't come off. We took the bedding material off best we could, and then we got a little spray hose at the sink and we sprayed, fish is still in here, we sprayed all the excess bedding material off, got him cleaned up as good as we can. Then we take little tools and try to get any remnants of bedding material. So for your second half, you only want this part of the mold with the fish in it. Then you don't want to stick your two halves of your mold together, because I've done that and it will wreck your day. I've done it on some very big things, just because you don't have your system down and you forgot and you pour the other half and you're so happy because you got it done, and you think, oh no, I didn't put anything to release this half of the mold from the other half. So we took paste wax, and we use a lot of Rexco Pardal paste wax. It's just a good paste wax for fiberglasses and plastics, and if you have Johnson & Johnson's paste wax, that will do.
Yep.
We have high-low paste wax that we also carry. Both of those will work, but we like this Rexco. It gives you a nice shine. So we took that on a brush or your finger and get this ledge. Fish is still in here. We're gonna get that ledge with wax. Next, make sure all your fins are back in where they go. Sometimes they will lift out. Next, pour the other half of Auto Body Putty and polyester resin mix, and that will be the other half. And it's going to run over your edge. It's going to run over the edge here. So then we took it over to the bandsaw and we just trimmed it, a nice edge around it.
Yep, once it's all set up, then we keep them together. Both halves are set. Then we run it over to the bandsaw in order to part it.
Now, a warning there. Pay very close attention as you're doing this fish, how much of a border you have around here. You can always trim it up later, but when that fish is encased in here and you're running it around on a bandsaw, you can cut off a fin, or you can cut the tail off. It's happened. And when you do that, it's another thing.
That will wreck your day.
So kind of pay attention where your fins are, because you don't want to cut short here and cut the lower lobe of his tail off.
And you had a great system for doing that, which I hadn't seen you do before.
With the holes?
Yeah.
I like to screw my molds together. So I took the fish. This is the smaller hole. The fish was laying in here like this. I got it all cleaned up, ready to pour my other half. I took a small drill bit and I drilled holes like every 2 to 3 inches around this fish, because I'm going to use those to screw him together.
Yep.
Then when I poured the other half of the fish, it looked like this, but I only have holes on one side. So using those as a guide, I drilled all the way through before I took the fish out. When I took the fish apart, I have something like that.
Yep. And the nice thing was you kept your screw holes about 1/2 inch away from the fish, so we knew when we cut it on the bandsaw, we had a roadmap.
We've fins before too, haven't we?
We've done that too.
We've done it all. So the next step you're going to want to do, once your mold is all clean, now take your fish out. We discarded the fish. I think some of you will say, can you use the fish over? I've seen it done, but usually the fish is
Baked.
warmed to an extent that it doesn't skin so well anymore. It can be done, but we typically don't do it.
Yes.
Pardon me?
Stinky.
Yeah, a little
That
smelly,
too.
yes.
Yes.
Once this is all cleaned up, we dry it. And you want a nice finish on this. So we like to seal it. And we took Lifetone's Base Coat Sealer or a good quality sanding sealer. You don't want to have any buildup because it's going to take away detail. Just with a paintbrush, we painted sealer on this. As soon as we did, we wipe it right off. That will seal your auto body putty.
Yep.
You don't have to. We've done it both ways. We think we get it to release much nicer if we seal this.
Yep. Bondo is porous, and so it will soak up a lot of that sealer, or it would soak in some of your waxes or mold releases.
So whatever kind of sealer you use, don't use anything thick that's gonna build up.
Yep.
We used a lacquer product, lacquer sanding sealer works pretty good. Then, once it's sealed, you're gonna wanna wax this. And again, we use the Pardal paste number 2. And with a rag, or they have a sponge applicator in there. If you ever watch Karate Kid, it's wax on, wax off. There is a technique to waxing anything, and not everybody can do it, can they?
Did you know Karate Kid came back and they're remaking it from the kids that were the
Do you
kids?
know how old he is?
He's
Now
like
the adults in the movie.
50.
And it's series, just saying, it's not shabby with kids watching it.
They said his age the other day, and it's like 52 or 53, the original Karate Kid. Anyway.
He's old.
Anyway, a person that can wax well, it's a concept that is so easy, and I've seen very few people that can do it. We have an exceptional wax lady right now.
And we've been a lot of years without one.
We have. And I had a fellow work for me one time that was in the mold making business, and he said, don't quit waxing till you can see your reflection in the surface. When we wax our mule deer whitetail molds, you literally can see your reflection in the surface.
Yep.
If the person does it right. Pardal paste number 2, you're gonna put it on in a circular motion. It's not a lot of work, just cover it all and let it dry. It's very important to let it dry. And depends on the humidity and time of the year and that sort of thing. I would say we're kind of dry here in the fall now. I'd say half hour, come in with a soft terry cloth towel we use, buff this, and you will feel it when the towel, we call it breaking. As the wax breaks, it will wipe free from here, leaving a really thin micro mill of a coat on there, and it's time for another coat. And I think on these we put like 4 coats of wax.
Yep.
Can you overwax?
I don't think, you maybe could.
Unless it built up. If it started to build up, you might.
Because you're not wiping it off afterwards.
You don't want
If
to
they're
know
not
that
doing
you
a good
waxed
enough
other
job,
than the
yeah.
luster.
Yep.
There's no thickness in a wax coat, but every one you put on is a barrier, which is going to keep something from going wrong.
Is there a difference between Partel paste and high-low wax, and if so, which ones do you guys prefer?
We've used them back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think we get a little brighter shine with the Pardal.
Yeah, I think we have recently kind of comparing the two. I think this one might have a little bit more of a solvent in it, evaporates faster. So it seems to work real good for us.
Little Tony has been waxing for us. She's been doing an exceptional job. And when I saw her do it, I went, yes, finally we have somebody that understands waxing. And I think to understand waxing, you have to be old enough to have waxed a car at one time or another.
Or your bike.
Yeah, or a bike.
Yep, I had to wax my bike.
So once it's waxed, when we do our deer heads, not the fish molds, when we do our deer heads, we put 10 coats of wax on. And that is a time-consuming endeavor. We put a coat on each piece, and we wait until the first one's ready. We buff it off, buff the next one, buff the next one, coat of wax, coat of wax, coat of wax, 10 times.
But done well, they glow.
And you can tell if you did 5 times or you did 10 times.
Yeah.
If you stick this fish in here and it never comes out, you have ruined everything and gained nothing. So the waxing is important.
Yes. Yep.
Next step would be possibly,
I think so. You can
that?
tell them what you did there.
I might grab a little bit. Are we gonna do half of this for them?
I think so.
Okay, I'll get some clay.
So there's a lot of different, while Tom's grabbing that, we're gonna move into, we've got the mold made and the mold prepped. The next phase is going to be creating the positive. And you've got a lot of different options for that. You've got a good barrier put on here. And with that, you could probably make this any number of ways. You could make them out of gel coat. You could make them out of Bondo, make your positive. You could make it out of an epoxy or a 2-part urethane.
Miracle clay?
Miracle Monster Clay.
Monster Clay.
Monster Clay, we've done that. That's kind of fun. You could, I think I've seen them done with like Elmer's glue.
Elmer's glue, and you European people might be able to tell us, I think is a form of PVA, and I think because over there they do not have access to some of our casting materials, I'm not sure they don't use something called PVA, which is very similar to Elmer's glue.
Yep. So lots of options. What are you going to show them?
Well, we're going to show them, we're going to use a product, and you might have to get it out for me, from Innovative Polymers. It's going to be 3030 at these two.
Yeah.
And 3030 is a white urethane. A lot of people make bird heads out of it, and different castings, and it's white. It's not transparent or anything like that. The setup time is kind of important. 3030 sets up in, it's not fast setup. It gives you plenty of time to work with it, but I'm going to say it'll set up in 8 minutes, 9 minutes.
Yep.
Now that I say that, I may make everybody wait till 5:30. There's not a great deal of heat buildup in it, which works good for this. And what I would like to do is take some of the 3030, it's a 50-50 urethane mix. Now, on big fish, a fish is way too heavy when you use a casting material like urethane. Lake Country's pike, that's a heavy fish.
Oh man,
And
that is heavy.
It's urethane. It's a heavy fish. So there's times you can get away with urethane, and there's times you better go with something like this one. Now the head is one, but this is, if you could look into here and you can't see, it's probably an auto body gel coat, like we poured our molds out of, right? Okay. An auto body gel coat, and then they reinforced it with, looks like fiberglass mat inside to make it strong. And this fish weighs, I would say, 3 pounds or less, 2.5 pounds. This fish weighs 18 right now, the way he is.
Yeah.
So there's different ways and different reasons to make fish lightweight or heavyweight. A little bluegill or crappie, he's not going to weigh 6 ounces when we get done. So what works good with this, I want to build that up. This is going to pour in here like thick milk, I guess, and I'm going to rotate it around, and I'm going to try to keep it off of the fins, and to keep it from running down the tail, I just take a little bit of clay, and I'm going to dam up my tail.
And that's oil-based clay.
Yes.
And you're doing that because you're going to make the fins out of a different material?
I can make the fins out of the same material, but I'm going to have to, if I had a big old bunch of it run out here, when I screw the two together, it's not going to be even, and it will cause me problems. Could you give me, of the Innovative Polymer 3030, could you give me maybe a heaping teaspoon? It's hard to mix small amounts, so I'm going to end up wasting some.
A heaping teaspoon. You sure wouldn't
perfect,
spill if it
perfect.
heaped? You want both parts or just one?
Both parts, please. We have a gentleman from Brazil who's been conversing with us about about mounting a, almost looks like a tiger catfish, is that what they
Red
call them?
tail, yeah.
From Brazil and from the Amazon, and he has mounted them skin mounted before and had issues, and I recommended making a reproduction, and if I were to do that, it's just the head he's doing. And if I were to do the head, I would make a two-piece mold and probably the mouth separate.
Sure.
So if you're gonna do the mouth, you'll have to make the mouth plug, and then you're gonna have to do a two-piece mold, and I would make it out of some sort of auto body putty thinned down, so that the one that he showed me, that he sent me, was standing up. He had a head, little bit like this, and I think I would fill this with some kind of bedding material. And then I would, you could lay this on the side. I would dam it up halfway, and then I would pour my auto body material. And I'd tell you his name, but I think I can't pronounce it. It was Brazilian.
Alessandro.
Do you think that was right? And then I'd flip it over, get my bedding material off. I'd put wax. Now, when we didn't have wax, you can use soap, like Dawn soap or Ivory soap or something like that. That'll work as a barrier. Then I would pour the other half, and then when I take it apart, I'm going to have something like this, but it's a catfish head. And then you could treat that just like we're treating these. Now, his concern was painting. And he's afraid that he, will have difficulty painting that, and we will address that for him sometime too. Sometimes some of these things that you worry about, once you jump in and do them, they're not
half
as
the
bad as
battle.
you fear.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a heaping teaspoon of 3030 from Innovative Polymers, and I think Innovative Polymers, we get it from Ricky Crane, right? And if you order, go to Ricky Crane's website, and he has several different urethanes. And another one of the clear ones is IE 3080, and that's a clear one and somewhat flexible that we use for fins sometimes. Okay, I'm going to mix the two together. And now, so I don't have to wait and twirl it around so long, I'm going to wait till I feel a little bit of heat. It's a chemical reaction, and the A and the B mixed together is going to start warming this cup. When it starts warming the cup, I'll pour it in, and I'll attempt to pour it around in half of this fish body. Now, if you wanted to, you could make a little hole, like maybe in the eye, and we'd put caulk so it doesn't leak out, and you could fill it up solid if you really wanted to. We've done that on little things too. Now, you're going to have to talk a lot while I'm pouring this around. It's going to...
Do you know what everyone was laughing about when I went out there?
No.
Your lovely wife forgot to put her car in park, and it was rolling on the snow toward my vehicle, which would be fair, technically, since I did it to you.
But somebody rescued it?
Well, she caught it, and she's like, oh, thank goodness no one saw me, and she came in, and 3 of the office ladies were watching her through the window.
Do you want to hear Vicky driving stories?
Stories.
We could spend till the first of the year every live telling Vicky driving stories.
We could.
There have been a few.
We have pictures of her car sitting at our house with the hose from the gas station dangling out the gas.
That's a bad one.
That did happen to me once, but I caught it like immediately.
It happened to me too.
Yeah, not bad. So there's probably others that will have to, but she did make it all the way home.
Yeah, I know, pulling it down
With
the
the
highway.
hose.
Okay, I've got, this is getting real warm.
Bless her heart.
Poor, bless her heart. Now, I do get it sometimes where I don't want it. When it's soft, you can take a scalpel and a knife and you can trim it back. I just put the clay on there so I can control it a little bit better. It's like those games where you have a little ball bearing that's going to roll around in there and try to get it everywhere.
And so you're not trying to fill this, you're just trying to put an even coat
I'm trying to
on
build up the walls so they don't
Yeah.
aren't weak and dent in or anything.
But you're not doing the fins.
I'm not
No.
doing the fins at this time.
And you built up the fins with clay to keep it from going.
Just
I
a
did
little
two. I
dam.
didn't do this one. I'm going to try to be careful on the anal fin. Now, like we said, start out little when you're teaching yourself to mold fish and cast fish. This would be pretty difficult to do with that big salmon, and it would require a different technique.
Watching you do this, I'm thinking these molds, this is basically, or this is exactly, not basically, this is exactly what you would do to create reference casts.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So if they just wanted to make themselves some good reference casts for doing some of your skin mounts, for rebuilding your epoxy areas, or one of the things in the competition area you'll hear a lot are fin unions. Pay attention to how these fin unions attach once you get the positive out, and that's invaluable information there.
Well, something that is a little advanced to me, I remember you working on a fish, and you had a little piece of plastic that I couldn't even tell what it was.
I
And
love
I'm
that
thinking,
piece of plastic.
What is it? And you had gone to the extent of lifting up a pectoral fin and pouring auto body putty in the armpit of the fish,
Yeah.
and then making a, I think, did you have a rubber one or you had?
Yeah, I painted it with rubber latex.
I got a good memory, don't I?
You do.
For an old guy.
That's
And then that was so that you could teach yourself what behind the pectoral fin looked like.
Yeah.
And who thinks of that stuff? That's just
those are some of my very favorite reference tools. Are just some of those little, just pour it. Same thing we did here, but just in very small areas. One little cast here, a little cast there. But this would be a great
and
one.
you do it as the fresh. You do nothing over how long? Like when is too late to make a mold, a good mold?
That's a great question.
Thank you.
I think the fresher the better, and depending upon how well you took care of it, your information is going to be from a dead specimen, so the fresher the better. But if it's been well cared for and cold and on ice for a day, you can probably do it the next day.
So you could put it in the freezer and come back out and do it, or just ice?
I'd try not to freeze it. I think there's a little bit lost in the freezing process, but Kate, can you show them what
it's set up so it
this is starting to?
doesn't do me any good to twirl it anymore. I have one coat in here. I would prefer one more coat. I'd do it on both sides, and that would get me to this step.
Cooking show again?
Yeah. Now we can show them how to do the fins on this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So. crop
Can
is
that
gonna-
30-30 be color tinted?
Sure.
Can it be color tinted?
Sure. Any
Yeah.
of these can be color tinted.
They do make dyes for these resin dyes, and I would use those. You can use lacquers, but lacquer-based paints or oil-based paints, but those do.
So all of the resin, we sell 12 colors?
Yep.
This is-
Yep. And those would be probably first choice for.
You saw the bluegill I painted the mold. Did you see that? When I airbrushed the mold?
Ish.
I took
Remind me.
a mold just like this, just like that, and it's all mold released and everything, ready to go. And I came in and I painted this with an airbrush. I painted dark up here, I painted green through here, it was a bluegill, I painted the orange down through here, a little yellow through here. So I painted the inside of the mold, and then I put in my 30-30, which was white. When it pulled out, that that paint had been absorbed into the 30-30, and I pulled out, you know, something with a base color to it, and
Right.
it had a lot of merit. It worked pretty decent.
I
Very
expected
cool.
this to be goopy.
There's big fingerprints in there. For
It's,
Okay, now, this has 2 coats. So same process that we did. It's got the 30-30, and it's got 2 coats, and now we're gonna put this together. But I wanna do the fins at the same time. So would you mix me up, or get me a couple cups, probably about the same amount of the 30-80. All you people are gonna get off here and you're gonna say 30-30, 30-80, 30-50.
which oil-based clay are you using?
You can tell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure we will.
I think, ta-da.
But which one were you using? Do you recommend?
Plastilina, I'm gonna say, maybe. We have several oil-based clays. Anytime you use an oil-based clay around a casting material or a silicone or a molding material, make sure it's not sulfonated. If it's sulfonated, it will react.
Sell the 30-30.
No.
We do not.
That's why we
Not yet.
told them we're
That's-
getting. We sell super polycast, which is an exceptional material.
That was Scott Stonebreaker asking that. So polycast is another
Polycast sets up fast though, so you better be,
twirling good,
yeah,
steady.
yeah.
How's that?
Good.
Enough?
Now will
Too
you
much?
mix me up, would you do that again? Same thing?
And you want to wait on that one?
To mix it, yes. And then I'm gonna need my screws in a cup. There we go. Now this is, you have to have your head on straight to do this when you're not trying to do a live, so I can't mess this up. And I'm gonna need something to keep it from dripping. Now, no matter how, this is real thin material that we're putting together. So as I put it in here, it's gonna want to run out. We take a little irrigation syringe. This is nothing more than latex caulk, white latex caulk, and I'm going to put a bead of it around in an effort to not have it leak all over.
James is asking who sells it. I'm not sure if he's talking about the 30-30 or the
30-30
oil.
is
Probably,
by Innovative Polymers.
Yep, Ricky
Could you
Crane.
grab me a rag
That'd
over
be,
there?
they get in touch with Ricky for the,
Yeah, Ricky Crane.
do you need a
Just
paper towel?
anything so I don't have to hold this.
Oh, I got it.
back with it. My table is, there we go. Okay, caulk to just catch my leakage. Now, I don't think we told them last week. When you make your mold, as the auto body putty cures, it will warp. And when it warps, you're gonna have a big crack between side A and side B. The screw holes, you can screw it together if both sides are warm, but a lot of times one side's cooled and you can't get them together. So we will put them in the oven and warm up both sides of the mold, and then carefully put your screws in and tighten it together, and you can get a hairline crack. We even have molds that we've made years ago, and over time they've developed a gap between the seams, and just by putting them in the oven you can make them all brand new again.
What temp do you put them on?
Low as we can go.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna set my drill so I don't
So you don't strip
So I
out.
wreck the mold. Okay, we ready? I am
think
going
so.
to mix one of these together, and you're going to be ready with that one. And when I put it on the fins, you can have that. If you mix about 3 minutes after I do, 4 minutes maybe, I'm going to do the fins. And just before I put it together and put the screws in, we're going to dump in fresher of that. And you'll see the results when I do it.
Maybe.
Pardon me?
Maybe they'll see the results.
And Jim says that's why his molds have a gap. Didn't know that.
Oh, you can fix that so easy.
Yeah.
And
As long as they're Bondo, not plaster.
yeah,
Don't crack your
put
plaster
them in the
molds.
oven, get them nice and warm, and then carefully put your screws in. You'll make them beautiful.
Yep, you can clamp it if you need to. Vice grips,
LMA.
clamps.
LMA.
Clamp it.
Nobody knows who Ellie Mae Craft it is.
They do. I bet Jig and Jim does.
You don't?
No?
Oh. The Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh, yeah.
Ellie Mae.
I didn't know what you're. Yes, I do. I used to get called her.
Okay, now, as this gets warm, it's gonna get thicker. What I like about the 3080 is it thickens very slowly, and when I start seeing some resistance, I'm gonna think about putting it on my fins, and I can do it on both of them. I think I can get by just with one, but sometimes you feel better about, coating both. I'll do it on both. But I don't want it to run all over, and from the time it starts thickening, you still probably have a good 5 to 8 minutes. It's very slow setting stuff.
We hope.
You can go ahead and mix that a bit now.
Ready? Worth noting too, these were poured out in equal parts, A and B. I have little lines on the inside of the cup that I was trying to match. So if you've got, it's not necessary that it be absolutely precise, but if you wanted to, you can weigh it. You can put it on a gram scale or
Now it makes a difference too how you pour this. This fish was molded in a C curve or a conventional curve, we call it, head and tail out from the wall, so he's dished in. This little, if I did this one and put it in here, it's gonna run all over the place. But because I have it in a little bowl area, I can put quite a bit in there without having it get away from me. Not much for questions.
no,
Anybody
kinda
watching?
quiet.
They're watching.
And I like to just continue to stir it because I can feel what's going on.
When you know it's time to pour.
Practice. Ruining a few of them.
You'll feel it
Or you
warm
feel
in your
it
hand.
hot.
Yeah, you'll
And
feel
there's
the
no
heat.
swirls, it's just
Right.
Yeah,
a little
yeah.
light and swirl.
Now, if anything goes wrong, say we botched the whole thing and this just absolutely didn't turn out, you're out, 50 cents of material here, 50 cents of material there, you're out
Yep.
a few dollars worth of urethane, but this mold will be good over and over and over and over.
Hopefully they wax their mold. If you waxed your mold.
Now, another thing that you can do, if you ever have one stick, it's a good idea to put PVA.
Yep.
And
Oh, we talked about
go ahead
that,
while
yeah.
I'm stirring here, and you can tell them about the PVA.
PVA is polyvinyl alcohol. It's a mold release. We use this in some of our molding projects, our bigger. If you'll just get warm.
Uh-huh.
You ready for it? Okay.
Nope.
But this is painted on, and it will give a very thin film, which will be a lasting mold release. You'll actually see it on your fish. You can pick it off when it's all done. It will have a film that actually has to be removed, but it is going to create a super, super, super thin barrier between your mold and your part. And
Almost like liquid saran wrap.
yeah, yep. Great way of putting that, because it will go on super thin. You can paint it on, or you can airbrush it on. We've done that too. And it's good insurance. On these molds, one of them I think was PVA'd on top of the paste wax. The other we used the Isocoat mold release, the 531, and that's another one we have in the shop all the time.
The 3080, can that be heated after a bit?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it can.
We
And
like
that
to
works.
do that.
Yep.
And then Jig and Jim wants to know, what paint schedule do you use for Northern Pike? I feel like that's a loaded question another time, but, and could the fins be injected with 38?
Jig and Jim, first of all,
Come visit.
are you asking so that note to self don't get their paint schedule for that fish? That's my first question.
Oh.
We kind of make them up as we go.
Yes, we do. I don't.
Anymore, we didn't used to. Okay, now,
I didn't answer any of Jig and Jim's.
what was the second one?
Can the fins be injected with the 3080?
Sure. You could inject it into a fin mold like this. You could sure inject. You could, if you left yourself a port, I suppose you could inject into the mold halves as well. We haven't done that, I don't think.
Okay, now I'm putting this thicker stuff on here, and it's not long from setting up.
Better hurry.
Okay, now you are going to fill up my little basin, if you can. Just
Ready?
fill that thing right on up. Good.
Can you pour too much?
Oh, then it runs everywhere. Like, everywhere you don't want it.
So, even if you don't pour enough, you're going to roll it so it's hollow in the center?
Yes. Yep.
Now, on a little fish, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be hollow for me. Now, the fins, I wanted to coat those fins really, really well with thicker stuff. That's why I started mixing mine ahead of time. The body, I want to be able to rotate that around. So I don't want the body to set up very fast. And a rag attached to it. Take it off of there, I think. Maybe I can, all except for that one. Now with my caulk in there, I should be able to stand this up all over the place. Boy, that's really
That's a good
tight
fit.
for those screws.
And once you've got all of this screwed through, you're going to just continue to rotate the mold while these parts, you're still good here. This isn't even close to set.
Is not, it'll
It's
take
not.
a while. It sets very slow, which is nice for me. And you could get by with less screws. But I should get a seam that I can probably almost have a perfect seam just by cutting a flashing off with a scalpel. Now my fins should be gelling. And I should have a pretty good fin shape. Now the liquid that Brett mixed, I'm going to use that to join the two halves together.
Yeah.
And you put quite a bit in there, and like we said, it's a small fish is why this method works so good.
Do you have to do the bottom layer first, or can you rotate all together with more in there and get it? Or does that not work?
One of these is going to be clear, and one's going to be white. So that's part of the reason, and this goes a little bit faster. So you could, I think you could put it all in at once, but doing it in 2 parts, I think there's a little more insurance that you'll get an even coat on both sides.
And this is what, like the cooking show, this is what we pull out.
Ta-da!
Yeah. And we just take the screws out, find a little seam, stick your knife in, crack it. Now look at how thin that seam is. Show them how to cut that. I mean, you can cut that with
Yeah.
scissors or a scalpel. It's
Yeah, I bet we could if I had a scalpel laying right here. I'm going to leave it back just a little bit, but you could go in there nice and close if you wanted to, and have very little work to do later. I'm not going to get very close, but
Now you don't want to quit twisting this until you're positive.
Oh, thank you.
It's set up. So that's why we'll take this. This was my fin over there. Is that pretty liquidy yet?
just starting to thicken.
Okay, so I probably got another 8 minutes or so
Yeah.
by turning, but I'm trying to coat that entire seam and join my 2 white halves together. And you can make white fins too, like you said.
Yeah.
You could use white.
Yeah.
White sets up fast, so I'd have to be going a little quicker.
Yeah. And some of you might like to paint white fins. Some of you like to paint transparent fins. That's kind of personal preference.
I used to be adamant about trying to make a transparent fin because fins are transparent until you kind of taught me how to paint in transparency. And
It's hard to use the transparent fin because it picks up, you've got so many other colors that it picks up, and paint doesn't sit on the surface of the fin as well, so sometimes it's just easier to apply color to a white surface.
that'll make a beautiful little chase fish.
It's gonna make a great
little
one.
pike like that going after, wouldn't it?
It really is. I'm gonna stay back about 1/8 of an inch. But,
You've got some pretty exciting things to tell people about.
ooh,
Well, we got a lot of our new stuff. The catalog is, we're waiting on the final proof, and then that will be in your hands, but a lot of the new stuff that you're gonna see throughout it is going to be out there. The first thing we already have in stock. Fire thread is something that's new to us, and we have, not new to us, but new to our line. It's basically, we teamed with, Berkeley's fishing line, and that is what the guys use to sew with. So we carry it in 4 different sizes, in 150 or 125 and 300 spools.
And we've used Fireline for years and years and years.
we did.
But Fire Thread is formulated for taxidermists,
Yep.
by taxidermists,
That's right.
So,
developed by Berkeley's.
yep, and they're right down the road from us.
They are. It's pretty
They're
cool to
in
have
town.
that company, such a big company,
She's got a big screen.
right here.
Oh, you do? No. Look at that. See, I don't have a screen to look at today.
Superior strength, micro diameters, abrasion resistance, 0 stretch.
Comes in what, like 4 pound, 8 pound, 14 and 20?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is, most of them are in. I think we're missing a couple of
We
them.
use it for everything. We use it for the fine for birds. We use it for fish. We use it for game heads. We use it for mammals.
We do.
And you also have in the catalog, you'll see what test to use for which animals.
And it'll be a personal preference. And if you need something really, really heavy, or sewing up a moose, and all you've got is say 10, you can double that.
Absolutely.
And make a 20
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
Very easy to sew with. There's no stretch, 0 stretch. You won't get a seam separating.
Not at all.
Great stuff. Fire threads.
We're really excited
Premium
about it.
product.
So for instance, the 4-pound ultra fine, we are recommending birds and mammal ears. The number 8, which is fine, we're recommending bobcats, fox, deer faces, thin short-haired deer. The 14-pound medium would be deer capes, and 20-pound heavy would be elk, moose, and thicker ones.
Yep.
What would you put with African?
Some of that African skin can be thick. You
Yeah.
can use 14 with it, but some of those thin skinned little
You're gonna
critters
want-
are.
You're gonna want them all, and you're gonna pull a little strand off, and you're gonna say, nope, that's too thick or too
Yeah.
thin.
Yeah, and again, don't be afraid to double it. It's good stuff.
Great product, great product.
And the next big exciting thing is we officially have our own app. So if you look up Matuska Taxidermy right now in your app store, you can download our app, and with that comes, it will.
Like iPhone app,
Yes.
like Apple apps,
You betcha.
we're on there.
We are on there. So basically, you can go on there, you can download our app, and you can always tap on it. So if you see the guys talking about something, our lives will be on there, stuff like that. You can click, you can add to your cart, you can like stuff, you can have wish lists, you can. It's just kind of exciting. You don't have to keep going to your internet
Who
and
thinks up all
finding
this
it.
stuff?
That's exciting.
Just trying to stay above it. It's user friendly. It's direct. You'll get direct notifications if you want them. All that fun stuff. So look that up right away.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. It's super
Good job,
easy
you
to
girls.
use.
You're amazing.
Making things happen.
Amazing. We try just for you.
Am I set up, do you think?
Not
Not yet. Keep
set,
rolling?
but I think you can stop. I don't. It's pretty rubbery.
Okay, now, I probably wouldn't pop this apart for a couple hours to be safe. I'd like to show you now. And if I did, this is what you would get.
Yes.
And that's just kind of the cutest little, you can make a sunfish out of that, bluegill, whatever. Fin detail is exceptional. I mean,
Really
you could
thin,
probably
crisp.
find- Look at, there's hardly any bubbles, you can't even find a bubble in it.
Super crisp, thin fins. That's the nice thing about clamping that mold together and making them in one piece, rather than two halves where you've got a thick fin.
You can see the scratches on my hand. We got a kitten at home.
And that's how we didn't get to fins,
Oh,
that's how we would make a small panfish. Now, incidentally, that mold, we told you before, that mold is good over and over and over and over. When you pop one out, repeat the process, do it again. Pop one out,
Yep.
repeat the process. You could make these out of, we used innovative polymers products from Ricky Crane. You can use auto body putty for
Sure.
your body, and you can
Yeah.
pour in a skin, rotate it
Yeah.
around. There's lots and lots of different materials. You're gonna have to make a mold, get some different products and play with them, and you're gonna get real comfortable with one, and it's gonna
Yeah.
end up being your go-to material for making fish. Now, feel that, that baby's light. No microbloons in it.
I know. I was just thinking we could straighten that thing out and hang
You're
some
thinking of
hooks
a
off the
musky
bottom.
plug,
I
aren't you?
am. That'd work perfect.
Now, a hair dryer with that will, or a heat gun, be careful of the heat gun, you can wreck those
Yeah.
fins. But a hair dryer, you can bend them, usually we'll
Yeah.
bend them and put a little screen on them and paper clip
Yep.
them until they cool.
Yeah.
Jig and Jim
Fun
says
stuff.
he has his Thursday Live on his TV, text on phone, and looking through your catalog. Now all you
Oh
need
my.
is your iPad next to you with the Matuska app, so you can just add
Oh
a card,
my.
add a card.
I would get one of them old Matuska apps, except I don't know my password.
Whose fault is that?
We have got over this, I feel.
Whose fault is we do this every
Well,
time?
we got so many of them.
There are a few of them, and they say don't ever make two of them the same. So
I know, see? Mandy gave
Hard.
me, for Christmas one time, she gave me a little book with a password book. Where'd that ever go?
It's probably buried on your desk somewhere.
needs
I
to
bet
be
we
in your
can
gun
I
safe
haven't seen
room.
it for years, but I bet you the passwords are not relevant
I
anymore.
bet Santa's gonna give you another one.
No, no, I can't find the last one. All
I-
right,
I
thank you
think you're
everybody
good.
for joining us.
Yep.
Everything that you guys talked about too is on the Facebook Live.
Oh, wait,
Oh yeah.
BO, what's that?
BOGO.
BOGO.
And what is BOGO?
Buy one, get one. That's not today though. That's
Oh.
not today. We were just talking about Black Friday stuff.
I learned a
Stay
new word.
tuned.
I know you're
Stay tuned. Also, happy belated Veterans Day. Thank you to
Yes.
all our
Oh, thank you.
servicemen and
Yes,
women for all
yes,
you do for our
absolutely.
country. We so appreciate you. Have a great Friday and weekend, and tune in next week. And you can also find majority of the stuff they talked about today on sale through tomorrow night on our website or app. So check us out or call us 1-800-488-3266.
Drive careful in the ice
Oh,
and
yeah.
snow.
And we do have a giveaway from
Oh,
last
Oh.
week's live. So this
Fire
week,
line.
we are giving away our new fire thread.
Wow.
And the winner of that goes to Larry Wiggins.
Larry, this is the best thing we've ever given away. You're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it. Love it, love it.
Good stuff.
So congratulations, Larry, and tune in next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.